And away we go.
All right, cool. So, welcome. My name is Chris. This is my brother, Andrew. Do you have any experience with podcasts?
No, this is the first one I've been on, actually.
First
I'm really
one?
excited to be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like listen to a lot of them, or like what's?
I do. Yeah, there's I did a lot more the more driving I was doing. I would just throw on different podcasts
Okay.
and listen to them.
I know, like I'm not a big podcast guy. I just can't like sit still and just listen to something like that. So the podcasts that I will be into more are the ones that are films like this, you know, where I can actually like see them kind of interact a little bit, you know. But you know, I don't have a lot of experience, so
Yeah, that's why I listen to a lot of them while I'm driving.
yeah,
It's just
I got you.
extra stuff.
Well, I just listen to music the whole time. Seems easy for me. So, yeah, this is pretty experimental. I don't know if we're going to do anything more than just this one episode. It's not going to be very long either. It's just for a school project, you know. But so the reason why I brought my brother onto this podcast is because we both have similar interests in the world of technology and music industry and things like that. And so do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what you've been doing the last few years related to tech and gear and, oh, look, a light turned on. That kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, you know, probably the world that I've been living in is the worship ministry, worship pastor position. Did a lot of that in college. That was kind of started out just playing guitar. I'm a old school guy, I guess. I've got the drum set and the guitar is actually on a rack and stuff. I don't have the little drum pad like you do, you know. I'm kind of still that old school. But yeah, I did that, and then I moved into worship leading, and so a lot of my music that I've been working on the last couple of years has been a lot of more worship filled. As I see, that's kind of the direction that I'm pursuing.
And so is that just because, you know, that's what you grew up doing and you didn't really want to try to experiment with anything else, or?
No, I don't know. I think for me, I just like the sound. You know, I was telling somebody the other day, I love the sound of like a good electric guitar solo. And so I try to incorporate that into my music as well. But
Isn't it hard to bring an electric guitar to contemporary worship music?
well, I guess that depends on your definition of contemporary.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I listen to a lot of different musicians in a lot of different genres, and so I kind of like mix and match and kind of pull in, and so my sound is kind of a lot of everything.
Yeah. And so like we started out in church, we played a lot of stuff together, and then after he left for college, I just kind of started creating my own stuff because there wasn't much else to do there. I didn't have a lot of people to work with at the time, and I really started getting into the electronic world. And so, you know, if you listen to a lot of my my individual music, my own compositions, you know, it's very heavily like synth pop based, not necessarily like, you know, a lot of the other like dance music and that kind of stuff. And I really just try to experiment with a bunch of different sounds and try to create a different sound for each song, you know. And then, you know, aside from that, you know, in a few years here, I'm hoping to be doing a lot with live sound a lot more, you know, setting up and tearing down for acts and stuff like that. I know you were kind of looking into that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, going back to your different sound stuff,
Yeah.
I've been trying to do that. Like, if you listen to John Foreman, Switchfoot lead singer, he's phenomenal at doing that. You know, every song, it sounds similar, but like so distinctly different. And that's what drew me to him, I think, was a lot of that different variety. And so I think, you know, my stuff lyrically, I try to stay with a more contemporary artist style. But yeah, musically, I moved to do different stuff, but in a much different direction than what you're doing, I think.
And so it's actually pretty interesting because just, you know, a month ago, he contacted me and said, you know, do you want to do a remix of this one song that I wrote a few years ago? And so I said, yeah. And I finished that. I had a few versions, you know, we were kind of conversing through email because we haven't actually like seen each other in person since, I don't know, 5-6 months.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. And so if you listen to the song, you know, it's you know, it's sort of a worship song because it's something that he wrote. but then it has all of my synthesizers and all of the stuff that I do, and you know, I kind of put it onto that. So do you want to talk a little bit about the song, like why you wrote it, you know, influences, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So really, in high school, I like kind of was messing around a little bit with writing stuff, and none of it was any good whatsoever. You know, college, when I joined the worship team, that was kind of what got the ball rolling into that realm of music. So I started working at Camp Sunshine, Nebraska, Solaris. And so the second year that I was working there, the theme for the summer was on belong. You know, like in this world we live in, people are always looking for where they belong. And so they belong here at camp where they can find Jesus. And so that's kind of like, I spent 5 months writing. I started January 1st of 2017 and I finished it in May. It was a super long process.
Did you have to rewrite the lyrics? Like, how many times did you have to like redo all that kind of stuff?
A few times, because I'll write a song and I'll be like, nah, these lyrics are either too cheesy or they don't work very well. You know, I originally thought lyrics always had to rhyme. Mm-hmm. And so I spent so much focus on trying to make it rhyme that I didn't spend focus on it actually being good.
Did you know that a song without a particular rhyme scheme is called a rhapsody? So Bohemian Rhapsody, it doesn't always rhyme all the time, and that's why.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So I found a lot of freedom when I realized I didn't have to make it rhyme. Like if it naturally fit with what I was going with, then that was cool. And so, yeah, I was kind of thinking about that idea of belonging, and so Voices was really like the first song that I came out with that I really liked. It's definitely in the rock category because that was when I was still like, well, what kind of music do I want to do? And after doing lead electric for a couple of years, I was like, yeah, like this is going to be a rock. It's got a guitar solo in it.
And if you remember the first version of it, I actually recorded the drum part.
Yeah, you actually did a lot. You did I think there was the low bass part to it.
I recorded the bass part too. Did you end up keeping that, or did you put something new in that as the drums?
No, it's still the tracks that you did. So I did the vocals, like the acoustic, the electric, but a lot of that extra stuff you did, and I kept it. So yeah, Voices kind of came out of that. It was as Camp was kind of promoting the Summer of Belong, they'd post other little snippets of stuff, and I was like, yeah, that's a good phrasing. Like, this is kind of the idea that I want to go with, because originally it was called like Belong, I think is just what it was called or something, but I was like, I hate that name. And so, you know, you spend a lot of time going through name changes as well.
Did you ever think about bringing in another singer, or having someone else, or maybe having like two different vocalists at the same time? Or
yeah, I really didn't actually. I didn't really know what I was doing when I was writing it, or like I knew what I was doing when I was writing it, but like recording and all of that was such a new experience for me. And a buddy of mine, Ryan Nordstrom, he does some music as well. And so I'd kind of been basing off what he's more alternative, I think. And so I was watching what he was doing, and he was doing a lot of just him singing like 3-part harmonies and stuff. And so that was kind of what I was going for in that, but I don't know harmonies very well. Yeah. And so it kind of just did what it did.
Didn't you do all-state choir for a few years?
I did. I was a tenor in all-state choir, but that, I don't know. I'm not very good with music.
Okay.
That kind of, I don't practice it a whole lot, so therefore it doesn't stay in my memory very often.
Yeah. And as a music major myself, I'm always practicing music, although not singing. If you've ever heard me sing, I can always hit the pitches, but the tone is terrible. So that's why I've just naturally started doing like instrumental electronic.
Yeah, melody, vocal, like I'm not, as I was saying the other day, I'm really bad with like music theology, but I've become much better at lyric theology.
Do you think that's because when you were in middle school and high school, you were a drummer, and you didn't really have to learn any of the other instruments?
Probably. I mean, because I took guitar lessons and then I took a year off and learned keyboard. Because in my head I was like, that's the cool thing to do. You go from guitar to piano. It just looks cool. But then I veered away from guitar lessons and I just kind of taught myself. And so then, yeah, it was just percussion all through high school. but it was, it was never like the xylophone and stuff. So I never actually had to like figure out what I was doing. I just played stuff that rhythmically sounded good.
Yeah. And for me, I tried to play guitar, but it never worked out for me. And I tried playing piano a few times, but it never worked out for me until this past year. I've been taking class piano. I have to take 2 semesters for my major.
Okay.
And so I'm finishing that up this semester, but I still can't play piano at all.
I'm good with like chords. I can get by. Like I'm leading a worship set this weekend, and so I was trying to figure out, it's a smaller group, and so I was like, do I go back and forth between guitar and keyboard? I'm like, but I don't want people to think I'm good at piano, because I'm not. I like know just enough skill to get by.
As long as you know the 1, 4, and 5 chords. I mean,
see, I don't even know what those numbers mean really. I just
so it'd be in the key of G. It'd be G, C, and D.
No, okay.
G, C, and D. Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know any of the terminology. I've been trying to learn a little bit more to actually like understand what all that means, but.
It's really fun once you like start understanding what you're doing, but then it's also kind of not fun. As any music major will tell you. Yeah,
it was interesting when I was working on the guitar solo for Voices. I was up on the neck and just like playing a bunch of stuff that sounded great, and so then I finished it, and then and I'm still struggling with this a bit. I'll finish the little riff solo, whatever, and I'll go, okay, now how do I repeat that? Because I don't know what notes I hit. All I know is I hit something that sounds super cool, but now I got to figure out how to repeat it again.
Just whenever you're just riffing or just just trying to come up with something, record that. And then you can go back and listen to it and you can redo it.
Yeah, and that's what I've started doing, is doing a lot more of voice memos for stuff, just recording little snippets, and yeah, then over time I've been working on figuring out where my notes actually are and what they are, and trying to actually put that together. So I've been kind of working on it a little bit.
Yeah.
But
it's pretty fun. So going back to Voices, when you contacted me to go ahead and do it, I had all these ideas, and then it took me about 5 tries. Like I started the project, I put in the lyrics that you sent me, and then, I stopped it and I restarted it, time again. And part of it was because of how simple the chord progression is. Like, I'm assuming you just chose like this one progression, just played it through the entire song.
Yeah, Voices, it pretty much is 3 chords, and I think in the bridge it goes to that 4th chord. It's like yeah. But again, that was like my beginning into it, and if you listen to contemporary Christian music, whatever's on the radio, like that's a lot of what it is. And so that's kind of where I was getting that beginning stuff from.
And it was extremely difficult for me because I don't like doing that. I like to do a lot of different chords that aren't just the 1, 4, and 5. I like having a little bit of spice in my music, a lot of dissonant chords and stuff. And so whenever I was trying to come up with a decent chord progression, it just didn't match with the vocals. I had to work around the vocals instead of creating melody or creating the bass and then putting the melody on top of that.
Yeah, and if you look at my Loyalty EP that I put out, I did a bit more of that. Harder to Do, which is my favorite track on that. It's like it's in the key of B, but it's a capo 4, and so it's a G, but then it's a G sustained, I think, some sort of like sustained pattern like that. And so that was like super cool. John Foreman, big musical inspiration from him as I was looking at that. And so I've definitely, as the progressions have been going on, I've definitely been trying to do more of that. Yeah, because I just think it sounds better.
And I'm sure if you teach yourself a little bit more about music theory, you can kind of start understanding a little bit about progressions. But a lot of music theory, they actually teach you like the best progressions that classical composers used and stuff, and all these different ways that they did it in the past and not pop music type of chords.
Okay.
And so, there's an interesting contrast there in me trying to create pop music, but with this sort of almost classical background,
Yeah. It's interesting when you can hear the same melody and you can put like 6 or 7 different songs into it, and you're like, hey, look at that.
Yep.
That's what drives me insane. And so that's what's been like that's kind of what's been pushing me to do more variety like that.
That's called the 4 chords of pop. and there's this group called the Axis of Awesome. I don't know if you know them.
Mm-mm.
They did like a spoof on that a while ago. This was like 2011 or 2012. I'm sure they even did it earlier than that. But they just did a mashup of like 100 different songs that all use the exact. It's the same progression as you hear in "Don't Stop Believin'" by Journey.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And you can put like any kind of pop song to that chord progression, and it'll sound just right. And so they made like a video about it, put it on YouTube. It's hilarious.
That's good.
Yeah. So yeah, eventually I finished Voices. I finished my mix. I call it my mix, not my remix, because when I hear remix, I think of EDM. I think of a certain type of like club music, and that's not what I do. I just create my own specific type of mix. I've only done it one other time, and it wasn't anything at all resembling dance music.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you think it that way. I guess because I've always, when I look in like the Christian music realm, like I can't think of who. Someone just did a remix the other day.
Okay.
And so I guess I've always viewed remix as like the same song, but musically very much so different. And so I always called it Voices, and then in parentheses like the Pets remix, because that's the name that you go by, and your music stuff is just Pets. And so I always call it the Pets remix because that's where it's made sense for me.
Well, the official title, when it drops on Spotify and iTunes and everything here in a little under 2 weeks, May 3rd, it's coming to you. The official title is Voices Pets Mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's interesting that you brought up the Pets thing, because when I started creating music, everybody called me Pets. And so that's just kind of the name that I adopted, my stage name, I guess.
Which I had that name first, just to clarify.
Yeah. Well, everyone in the family did. But then, and when I went to Morningside, I still introduced myself as Pets. It helped because there were 3 other Chris's in the music department. So they had a name for me. But then when I got to Wayne, nobody there calls me Pets. Everyone there calls me Chris. The only people that call me Pets that I still talk to that, are people that I've known since before college. They'll still call me Pets because that's what they know.
That's an interesting just side thing. Like, yeah, because I was called Pets through high school and then into college, all through that. And then when I went to Forest Springs, it was almost one of those, like, everyone's too adulty to call nicknames anymore. Okay. And so like, I went back to being called Andrew.
Well, for me, it was more of, when I got to Wayne, it was in the middle of the year. I transferred in, and I was already a bit of an outcast because I wasn't there since the beginning of the year. I had to try to fit in with all the established groups that are already there, and I didn't want people to try to think, what's my name? Why is it Pets? Why is it so unusual? So I just kind of introduced myself as Chris, and that's the way it's been going for the last year and a half. I mean...
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I remember when you were first putting stuff out and your name was Pets, I was like a little hurt by that because you kind of were putting stuff out before I was.
Yeah, a little bit before.
A little bit. Mm-hmm. And that was back when I was kind of toying with the idea of doing stuff. And then you released it as Pets, and I was like, what the heck? Like, that was the name that I've been used to, and that's like what my friends know me by.
Well, that's what all of my friends knew me by, too. Like, we ran in completely different circles since you're a few years older than me. Mm-hmm.
But it works out because, like, almost in the style of music that I'm doing, it doesn't make sense to just have, like, a one name. Mm-hmm. Like, so all my music's put out as Andrew Pets. Like, that's... And I'm okay with that.
And, my YouTube channel is Christopher Pets. That's what it is. But whenever I have, like, an original song or something, I will call it as Pets. And you see on streaming services, it'll be as Pets. P-E-T-T-S, all capital letters, because I thought it looked cool.
It does.
2 years ago.
I still think it does. It kind of... Because, like, if I would have put Pets remix or mix or whatever, and it's just P-E-T-T-S, everyone's like, oh, cool. Like, 2 brothers are doing stuff together. But, like... This makes it seem more official in my eyes of like, this is like the Pets remix. Like, he's a different musician and he's coming in and doing this.
Another name that I toyed with was Sly Dog Pets. And if you go to my Twitter, my Instagram, and my Tumblr pages, my username is Sly Dog Pets.
Yeah, trying to find you on Twitter is hard. I keep forgetting that's your name, so I'll like just search Pets and like nothing comes up. I'm like, where is he?
Well, it should be back to Pets. Oh, okay. I changed it for a little bit because I had to do this other account for a class. I had to create, a bunch of, like, for this actual class, you know, we had to create social media and stuff, and I created these other side ones, you know. But I ended up changing it back, so it's pets at Sly Dog Pets.
Oh, okay.
Everywhere. And so the reason for Sly Dog Pets was because in high school, I had a few friends that, I don't know, they thought I did something when I really didn't, and they thought I was like super sneaky and sly, and they started calling me that. And then like a few weeks later, I created my Twitter account, and that was still kind of fresh, and so I did that. And then ever since then, you know, I've tried to keep all of my my what's it called? My tags, my handles, or whatever, to be the same, so that way, you know, people can find me cross-platform.
Yeah. I'm pretty lame. If you look at my Twitter, it just is Andrew_pets. I think my Instagram is also just Andrew_pets.
But, you know, it's more professional than Sly Dog Pets.
It is. And for a while there, it used to be like Andrew Pets Music, or like I had a email account that was like Andrew Pets Music or something. And like I keep going back and forth between those. My Facebook is my full Andrew Michael Pets.
Yeah.
But like otherwise everything else is just the Andrew Pets.
I got you.
So easy to find.
Yeah, so then we keep going off topic here. After I send him the final version of the remix, or the mix as I call it, you know, I told him I want to put this out on streaming services with these other songs that I've been doing. You can find all of them already up on my YouTube channel. And I also wanted to create a visualizer or a lyric video to go with you know, the song, and I don't have it done yet, even though the song comes out in 12 days. I need to get on that after I edit this. But, you know, I've been bouncing around tons of ideas. Like with an actual song, you know, I have an idea for what I want to do sort of in the background of the lyric video. And the next day I'm like, no, that's a terrible idea. Let me do this thing. And even last night, or like yesterday, I was walking around and I was doing some recording stuff. And then last night I started a new version of it. So like all visualizer based without any kind of external footage in it.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I haven't really done any of that. I haven't been like around the people to do that. And so a lot of it is I'll just record stuff and put out the audio, but any visual effects or anything, like I haven't delved into that, and I haven't had the time or the resources around me to help me with that.
Well, about, you know, sort of at the beginning of this year, I started creating vlogs. So whenever I put out a song, instead of putting it out on social media, or instead of putting it out on streaming services right away, I just uploaded it to my YouTube channel. Then I made a little commentary where I sat down with a mic and talked about it a little bit. And the whole purpose for that was to learn about video editing. And so if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see that, you know, there's a bunch of just like little things on there that don't mean anything. It was just me messing around in a video editor and trying new things, you know, because I think that's super important to know as someone that is so heavily invested in the social media and with the technology, that sphere, you know.
And it's easier for you because, like, I'm a camping major. I graduate in a couple weeks with a Christian camping ministry major.
Yeah.
And so it's like, where does music fit into that? I don't know. And so that's kind of why, that's part of why I also lean towards that worship ministry side, because chapels, like that's kind of where it's at. And so like doing all this extra visual stuff, and like I just don't have time because I'm doing camp ministry. So it's kind of a weird thing of like, why are you don't seem to know what you want to do, but I kind of do, but.
Well, and you know, for me, I have a music industry major. That's what I'm studying. But most of it is actually like business type stuff. There's not a lot of technology classes, and so actually like next year I'm taking my free credits, like my what's it called, I'm blanking,
like gen eds,
electives. Yeah, I'm taking my electives and I'm actually going into the theater department. And I'm taking things like stagecraft and lighting and all this stuff that you should be learning in a music industry major, but they just don't offer it at my school.
Well, that leads to a weird point, because like outside of worship leading in college, I also did that, sound and lighting, the theater performances. I was the lighting technician, and I put all that together, and so I have a lot of like head knowledge. And I was talking with a guy last week, and he's like, well, what all experience? Like, did you go to school for this? I'm like, well, I did, but I didn't. I went to school, and then I did all this training on site. So it's kind of weird because I like doing that stuff, but nobody really wants to hire me because it's just one of those, like, it's just, I did it for fun.
Yeah.
And now I do it well.
Well, and I actually got paid to do it a little bit at Morningside because it was a work study job. Mm-hmm. And if I would have stayed at Morningside, I would have been like a manager already within like the first year. Mm-hmm. I mean, just because of my experience doing that kind of stuff at church as in high school, Yeah. But there's not a lot of it at my school. I'm hoping to get into it next fall. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and that brings a different experience to camp. As I see the direction of camp moving to more conference center, people are always wanting like hotel style rooms, and like just the way that that's moving and the way that the church is moving, that's becoming a bigger issue. Like how, when you're doing sessions, like how is your stage looking? How are your lights looking? Like, do you have all your house lights off? Do you have all your stage lights? Do you have fancy spinning lights? Like, and so even just having that experience is almost a good thing because camps are all moving that way, but nobody really knows how to do any of it.
Yeah, and as of right now, I know how to run a soundboard. I have one sitting right here next to me that you can't see, but I have no experience at all with lights. None at all. If you told me to go to a light board and try to program some stuff, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing.
And that's interesting. The stuff that I worked on, like my lighting console, it looked just like an analog mixer. Like it's all just faders, and that was what I learned on. And like now, the stuff that I've done, I've used a digital mixer. It's all in a Mac computer is all the lighting stuff. Like the advances of it, I've seen the band Beretta Stone I've been to seen some of their shows and the gear that they use. It's like mind blowing because they do production work as well, and so their sound mixer is all just touchscreen computers. Their light board is basically the same thing nowadays. Like, it's amazing the stuff that I don't even know, but I'd love to get into that. But
for sure. Yeah, it's a big world out there. It's getting bigger with the advancements in technology and computers. Everything is just going to digital. There aren't even going to be like physical soundboards anymore. I mean,
which makes for interesting when you're trying to sell one. And it's a 40 channel analog, and it's like the size of this table that we're at.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, we'd like to sell this, but people are like, yeah, but I can get one for an eighth of that size that does even more than that.
Yeah. I guess, although, I don't know what kind of practical use there is for that with like big concerts and stuff. I mean, when you need to have a lot of equipment,
Well, and so like the digital board that Camp uses in their unique position, it's a 48 channel digital. And so they have their snake up on stage, which runs to an Ethernet Cat 6. And so that just runs to the mixer. And so it like eliminates all the extra cables and stuff. And so that's kind of where they're moving is that. But, my thought was, I was questioning how this is affecting recording studios. Like the actual studios that musicians used to go to, like, are they even still in business? Because that was like the big consoles, what they would use. But they're switching over too, and now they'll have like 2 or 3 mixers that can hold 40, 50 channels.
And just the fact that you and I can be sitting here and talking about a song that we put together and that's going to be out on streaming services soon. I mean, what does that tell you about the state of the music industry when just, a bunch of kids can, with a laptop can, make their own music and stuff?
Yeah.
Especially with all the digital synthesizers and instruments and everything. I mean...
Yeah, and I think that's where we'll always be different because you're always kind of moving forward in that electronic side. But I'm always, like, acoustic guitar I've become much more familiar with as I've done more leading. And, like, that's always going to be my thing. I'll always love to have my guy sitting on an acoustic drum set behind me, having a piano player. Like, I'm always going to be the one who's like, let's get all the actual instruments.
But, the thing with that, while that is fun, and, I've enjoyed my time playing percussion, trap set, and a bass in live music in high school. The thing is, with synthesizers and with electronic music, you can create a ton of new sounds. Like with an electric guitar, you have a foot pedal. You can do a lot of stuff there. But being able to craft and create sounds and change it in the middle of a song and do all of this with it, digitally, instead of, having to try to record it and do it all at the same time,
Yeah, that's true. But, I think it depends on where you're... But even as you look at... I was going to finish that thought, where you're wanting to do with music. But I guess even if you look at some of the Christian media, all they're doing is copying pop stuff. Like,
yeah. I mean, what's popular now in Christian music was popular 3 years ago in the mainstream world. So,
And so it's interesting because I heard a song on the radio the other day, which is rare. I don't usually listen to the radio because I can't stand it. But I was confused at what station I was on because it all just sounds the same now. And yeah, going back to the beginning, my philosophy of like us serving an infinitely creative God, and the best we can come up with is copying what other people do.
But, it's also hard to come up with original stuff now because everything has already been done.
Right. And so I think that's what makes the guitar solo cool is like, yes, it may have the same sound, but there's no two guitar solos that are the same.
Yeah, and I'll give you that. However, there's only 12 notes in a scale. I mean, there's only so many different ways that you can, mix those 12 notes and everything and make it sound good.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But nobody plays electric anymore today, so therefore you have more time to come up with things until you run out.
I guess. I'll give you that.
I don't know. That's just personal opinion on that. Mm-hmm. But
all right, so we are definitely riding at over a half hour on this, and I think we kind of talked about everything. We talked about the song, a little bit about our experiences in the tech world and in the industry and whatever. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about?
Well, as we were finishing, I just want to, I got through my whole like spiel about music, and then it's kind of like, wait, so why is he doing a remix of a song then? And honestly, I can't really answer that. It's like, it was something new, and I think it was because of the influence of music. I saw somebody else do it, and it was okay. Honestly, a lot of remixes that you see in the Christian music industry suck.
Yeah, they're terrible.
That's just, they try, but they're just not good. I've only seen a couple that have been done well.
Do you know of a musician named Matthew Parker?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he has been doing a lot of really good electronic music the last 4 or 5 years. He was one of the first guys that I listened to when I started getting into EDM, and he still, I still think he makes some of the higher quality type in that particular industry.
Yeah, and so I think what I was thinking was, so the original is in the category of rock, and so then I was thinking Hillsong Young and Free, they do a lot of that stuff. Like, I love doing that music, and I love like when I'm leading doing songs like Alive, and you got it's like awesome fun to do. But when I'm doing, if I have a full band, I'll utilize it. But the stuff that they were kind of doing, I guess my thought was doing kind of like a Pets remix or mix the original. One would be fun to do just an acoustic stripped down version of it. Maybe do, that was the idea, was do like 4 or 5 tracks, all different versions of it.
Did you have any kind of expectations for what you were expecting me to come up with?
Not really. I wasn't sure what direction you were going to take it was going to be, which kind of is the fun part as well. You just kind of like, here's the lyrics, and you can just do with it as you want. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not a big fan, like, that's fine, because my end goal is kind of like 5 different styles anyways, and so they're all, the thought is that they would all be different. So even if I don't like one, there's a different one, or I don't know. It was more of just kind of like, Voices was never going to be on a record or anything. It was only just a single. It was never going to be on an EP or a full-length album or anything. It was just kind of there, and I just wanted to do something more with it. Mm-hmm. So that was basically why I wanted to do this.
Okay. All right, so we just got the guy telling us that it's time to pack it up for the day, and this is definitely enough content that what I needed for this. So yeah, May 3rd, you can listen to this. You can listen to 5 other songs that I created myself. They're all instrumental tracks. You can already listen to them on my YouTube channel, but all 6 of these songs will be available for streaming. I'm thinking it'll be Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Google Play, and Amazon. So those are kind of the big four. And make sure you go follow Andrew on social media. If you're watching the video of this, I'll post links down in the description. Otherwise, Andrew Michael Pets, just look for him, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's just Andrew Pets.
Andrew Pets? Okay.
Yeah, I don't really use Facebook except for like Instagram sharing or something. But yeah, this was fun. Nice glad you had me.
Nice little promotion thing, It's been a
Shout
while.
out.
It's been a while since we've actually done anything together since you left for college, and then I had college a few years later, and it's like
yeah. But no, I didn't realize how much actually Voices has been a mixed project because I was in college when I was working on it, and so I didn't have a drum set to use. I didn't have any of that other stuff, and that was back when you were doing that.
Yeah,
and so even from the beginning, it was kind of a mixed project. So
yeah, turned out
kind of fun, full circle thing.
Yeah, guess so.
But
yeah, so thank you for watching and or listening. I hope you got something out of this. I'll see you later, I guess.
Bye.